All right, everybody, welcome to BO Boys for Wednesday, September 20th. Fuck it. It's a raw feed. We're doing it live. I'm Clayton.
Yeah, I'm Pat and Clayton. I was sick this weekend. Let's get to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was under the weather. I was unable to perform on the microphone, and that is why we are a little late. I'm not too proud to admit it, but we're here. And because we were a little late, today's going to be for the listeners who have been with us since the beginning. Before we went 2 days a week, we used to do one episode a week, and it was always double double purposed, where we would recap the previous weekend and then preview the next weekend all in one episode. And that's what we're going to do here today.
Yeah, so we were, before we got on mic, we were at BOHQ,
Yep.
and I said to Pat, "Oh wait, I have to plow."
Yeah, you have to plow. You don't we're not just looking ahead. We still have to look backwards at this haunting in Venice debacle. Not to give away the goat here, but it was a debacle, and we're going to get into it. So we still got to talk this opening weekend of A Haunting in Venice before we could get to previewing Expendables 4. So there is a lot to get through this episode. So it's going to be jam packed. Do you remember when this show started? We also would end every episode with just doing a box office history of an actor. That was a segment. We used
Yeah,
to really load it up at the beginning.
we did. We definitely did. Now we disperse it evenly.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
But
better way to do it.
not
Um,
today. Today it's all in one. So yeah, Clayton, I think it's time to give a plow for this ancient box office weekend of Friday, September 15th. Was it?
yeah,
Yes, it was. Yeah.
yeah, the 15th. Number one, in a shocker, The
Hmm.
Nun 2 made $14.5 million, down 55%. It added 15 theaters. It's at $56.3 million in its second weekend. Number two, A Haunting in Venice made $14.2 million in its opening frame. Number three, The Equalizer 3 made $7.2 million, down 40%. It lost 437 theaters. It's at $73.6 million in its third weekend. Number four, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 made $4.7 million, down 53%. It added 28 theaters. It's at $18.6 million in its second weekend. And number five, Barbie made $3.8 million, down 33%. It lost 269 theaters. It's at $625.9 million in its ninth weekend of release. That is your top five.
Wow. So and Clayton, is this coming weekend going to be the weekend where Barbie gets IMAXs? Is that
Yes, the
happening this
22nd, which is this weekend, uh,
interesting?
getting an IMAX release.
And I'm okay, so we'll chat about that when we have to do our preview, but very interesting that Barbie's hung around at number 5 and has a good chance of spiking for probably one last time this
Mhm.
coming weekend. So, I mean, The Nun 2 is number 1, but the big story here is, I would say, the complete flopperoo that was this third Pro Can I Finish Agatha Christie adaptation of Haunting in Venice. I mean, $14.5 million losing in its opening weekend, or 14.2.
2, yeah.
And either way, coming in second in its opening weekend to the second weekend of The Nun, this is a disaster.
Okay, I mean,
No. Okay. Okay.
no, obviously it's a disaster.
Okay.
Obviously,
Okay.
'cause I
Obviously.
mean, when you look at what the first one did, and then if we're giving the second one a mulligan, which I don't think we should.
I think you got a Super Bowl weekend. It's Army Hammer and Russell Brand, and just we'll leave it at that. I said this a week ago that you got to give a
Yes.
mulligan to a movie that has Russell Brand in it, and now more true than ever. But I mean, I think that movie has a mulligan because it's got the haunted cast, it's got the stained cast that could not have drawn anyone, and it was a COVID delay, and it came out Super Bowl weekend. It was a dump. this Haunting in Venice, this third one, was supposed to be an uptick. It was
A
supposed to
rebound.
be a rebound, and it did what? The same as the other one? It
Well, here's and I don't want to be the Venice defender,
okay,
right?
but you
I
are,
don't
so
want to
go
be
for it.
that guy. I don't
Mm,
want to be the Pixar hater and the Venice defender. That's not
right,
what I want to be known on the internet for.
right. But your kid
But
loves this one. That's what you're saying.
oh, how dare you? It just got that just made me so angry.
I knew it would.
So, uh, this movie is a horror movie, right? It has horror elements to it. Now, it might not be a gore fest, it might not be a slasher, it might not be something that's gross out or gruesome, but it was going up against another horror movie, The Nun, which held way better than we expected. And,
Way better.
55% drop is for any other sort of movie is not great, but for a horror movie, that's really good. And so I do think there was an element of The Nun stealing a little bit of this thunder because I know the age groups aren't the same. The Nun is skews younger and Venice was skewing older. But I do think that the strength of The Nun did kind of cut into and cannibalize a little bit of Venice because I mean, that's one of the reasons why this movie didn't do as well, and it did open a little bit higher than the last one, which we're giving a mulligan to officially.
A little, but that
So
one had Army Hammer and Russell Brand.
true, but
So
also
you gotta understand that negative there.
this one had almost 0 star power except for Michelle Yeoh in her post-Oscar performance. But what does that mean nowadays? I mean, a post-Oscar performance back in the day meant something. Nowadays, nobody cares. So,
Yeah,
that's that I think the star power here, and then Tina Fey is in this, who, her star has waned.
it has
So
waned, yeah.
I just don't really, and even though, the biggest show on cable and streaming and now broadcast is Yellowstone, the young woman from Yellowstone, I don't think is putting the butts in the seats.
Kelly Riley. You don't think Kelly
Yeah.
Riley? Well, she was competing against herself because, and listen, we're not Streamo, huh? And we're not TV critics, huh? But CBS is airing Yellowstone now on
Yeah.
the CBS network. So if people want to see Kelly Riley, they could see her at home. They don't have to
Yes.
go to a theater to see Kelly Riley. Also, I don't think most people know her name and would go see a movie. They know Beth from Yellowstone. Or if
Yes.
anything, they know the, the crazy person from Yellowstone. That's what they
Come
know.
on, watch it, watch it, watch it.
Oh,
I know you're
what?
sick, but let's not, let's
What?
be careful. Let's be careful.
Um, so I don't think there's anyone in that Haunting in Venice cast who matters. Like Tina Fey could still matter to some degree in a comedy.
No.
Possibly, but probably
No.
not because comedies don't matter. But I
Yeah.
think she definitely doesn't matter in anything that is not a comedy. And I
Mhm.
think we've seen that. And like a pure comedy, not
Yeah.
even this is where I leave you sort of like dramedy. She means nothing in anything other than basically a her and Amy Poehler vehicle. That's where she meant something at one time, but she definitely
Yes.
doesn't mean anything as the dramatic protagonist in and you listen, this is a fake horror movie. You're saying The Nun is competition. I think the problem with Haunting in Venice is this is a movie that appealed to no one because horror fans never bought this as a horror movie, and older people don't want a horror movie.
Well, why is it not a horror movie? Is it because it's a Scooby Doo situation?
Listen,
That
I
like there's
haven't
a fake ghost? Is that
I
they take it off and it's like the guy who runs the carnival?
I haven't seen this, so it can't be a spoiler, but
Okay.
I assume what you just said is what happens in this movie.
Okay.
I think there is almost no chance there is real supernatural elements in Haunting in Venice, other than
Okay.
maybe at the end of the movie, they reveal who the fake ghost was. Like you said, they pull the mask off, and it's the old man who runs a carnival, and Perot, can I finish, says, I solved the case. There was never a ghost.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, his like car starts without him putting the key in. And he's like, oh, but maybe there is a ghost. And that's
Yeah,
how the
yeah,
movie
yeah.
ends. There'll be like
Okay.
one beat at the end where a dish moves slightly, and then the audience is like, "Whoa, maybe there is a ghost." But otherwise, there is no way this is a supernatural movie. No way.
Okay.
There is no slasher in this movie, and there's no demon in A Haunting in Venice. And it's not a spoiler because I've not seen it.
So this is sort of a stolen valor situation when it
Yes,
comes to horror.
100%.
Stolen horror, I guess you could say.
Yes, yes. This is going out and wearing a Freddy mask when you haven't gone through basic training and you haven't earned that Freddy mask. That's what's
Okay.
going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Haunting in Venice is stolen horror, and the Gorehounds knew it. And
Uh,
so I don't think that this movie really lost out because of The Nun, because I don't think any horror fans ever considered this an option.
yeah. I mean, okay, so my very tepid defense of this film seems to have not held up under scrutiny. So, yeah, I mean, here's the thing.
Mhm.
I was a little bit early in saying there's not gonna be a Nun 3 because of this good hold.
Yes, let's get into that Nun 2 hold. I mean,
But
it's
what I was gonna say is I
mhm.
do think we saw the last of Perot in a theatrical release, right?
Yes. If Detective Poirot asks, "Can I finish?" The studios all answer, "Yes, you have finished. You are finished. It's
You can
over."
finish, and you did finish with this film.
Yes. I mean, in a world where the streamers were just making anything constantly and just churning out garbage nonstop, you could see a world in which he starts making an Agatha Christie TV show with this character. But I think
Mhm.
we're past that. I don't think even that's an option. But I definitely do not think there will ever be a Kenneth Branagh starring, directed fourth Agatha Christie adaptation in movie theaters. I
No, I
just
mean, but
can't
it
see
could go
that.
streamo. I mean, I do think
It
Branagh's not gonna do a TV show, but I do think if there's some money there to make a movie, he will. I mean, this thing has enough
could it
people
be
know.
Crackle? Could he find his home on Crackle?
Well, what studio is this?
It's Fox, right? It started as 20th Century Fox, so now it's 20th Century via
So then it
Disney.
would be a Disney, it would be a Hulu movie.
Yeah,
Eh,
it could be that, but I feel like I feel like they've already been burned by this twice. So I don't know what the right situation if they could
But
just say, you know what, take this to Crackle and leave us
look,
alone.
we live in a world where, and I'm not gonna say that Perot is the equivalent of Transformers or G.I. Joe. I
Hmm.
mean, but look at, Paramount not letting G.I. Joe die, not letting Transformers die. I mean, nothing will die. So this can continue in some capacity. Like, I would not say we are seeing the last of uh Kenneth in this role. I'm just saying theatrically we've seen the last of it. And
Yeah.
for us, if it ends up on a streamer, if it ends up on Hulu or Disney Plus, that doesn't matter to us.
Well,
So
yes. Then we.
effectively,
Mhm.
it's dead. This is a dead IP theatrically, at least for the next 15 years. If they start doing, if they do an Orient Express 20 years from now, it's not going to star Kenneth Branagh.
No, no, no. It'll be someone else's vanity project that also probably will not work. Although the first one was a hit, but that was because of Johnny Depp. And I think they've never had a star at that level in either of these movies since.
No.
And that's pretty much been the problem. And if they make a fourth one, we're going to talk later about Expendables 4. And I think you could look ahead and a fourth Detective Poirot movie would have a very similar cast to an Expendables 4. You know, 50 Cent Jackson could very well be in a fourth Agatha Christie adaptation alongside Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah. Streamo.
Streamo, oh Streamo for sure.
Yeah.
And I
Now
do think Crackle puts a bid in.
Now, going back to The Nun.
Yes.
Okay, so we got a great write-up by wanna BO intern, junior intern, Jack,
Mm-hmm.
kind of breaking down this compared to the last one. Last one dropped 66%. Now, obviously, that opened in the 50s,
Right. Right.
but it had a better hold than the Insidious: The Red Door, which went down 60%.
Yeah.
And it stands now at 56.5. Insidious was at 58. Meg 2 was at 54.2.
Yeah.
So if Nun 2 legs out like Insidious, it could get to 80 million, which would be
Yeah.
a success for this Nun. I
A
mean, and
hundred
we would
percent.
see Nun 3 then. We would definitely see more of this Nun.
Yeah. We did write off this Nun too quickly because I think we both thought this was going to have a massive drop. We
Mhm.
thought people had gotten all they wanted out of the Nun with the first one and didn't care anymore. But yeah, this is a great second weekend hold for a a movie that in its second weekend and for specifically a horror movie. So this movie getting to 70 or 80 million, which it seems like it's definitely going to happen, is a
Mhm.
full-on success for
Yeah.
sure. So, I mean, is the Nun Freddy? No. Is the Nun
No.
Jason? No. Is the
No.
Nun
Mike
It,
Myers, no.
Pennywise, Mike Myers? No, no, no. Is the Nun Annabelle? Is the Nun Chucky? Maybe. Maybe.
Chucky and Annabelle are 2 different ones. I mean, if you're talking Annabelle,
They're
she's
both
only had
dolls.
2 movies. Chucky's had many, many subsequent movies. I think if you're asking, "Is she Chucky?" That's still up to debate.
Yeah.
She's already Annabelle. She's had 2. Annabelle's had 2. Other than, appearing in some of the Conjuring beforehand,
Right.
Annabelle's only had 2.
Okay. And the nuns appeared in other stuff too. So the nun's already Annabelle, but the nun could make a run for that second, third tier of horror franchise characters.
Mhm.
80 million for the second one. A third one gets made in a couple of years, does 60, 70 million, and these budgets stay low, which they're gonna because these are not star-driven movies. I mean, you're looking then at something that, hey, maybe these nun movies get to a Saw number
Mhm.
down the road. So that's good for this nun. Good for this nun. We wrote this nun off way too soon.
Yep. Yep. Do we wanna talk a little bit about Equalizer?
Yeah, go for it. I
Okay,
mean,
so this
saved
is this
itself.
is yeah, this is from Jack. So, a great hold, solid after that really bad second weekend drop, which I do think had a lot to do with football,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Uh, but it's pacing behind the predecessors, right?
yeah.
So and Jack is giving it a very slim chance to go over 100 million like the others have. 90 to 95 is within reason. And he had a great point here. Expendables 4 is going to cut into this audience
Mhm, mhm.
because, I don't think we have high expectations for Expendables 4. We'll get to that when we do our preview. But I do think that that is a crossover audience. The
Mhm.
oldster action, you know.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's not gonna make the 100. It's
Mhm.
not gonna make the 100, but I mean, this movie making 100 was always such a great number. That this
Mhm.
kind of movie making 80, 90 million dollars, crossing that 90 million, that's such a success for Denzel because this is a movie that relies only on people wanting to see a Denzel Washington movie. That is the one reason why anyone would see Equalizer 3 or any of these Equalizer movies. So, this is $90 million worth of tickets sold purely for people who want to see Denzel Washington.
Yes, yes. Because in the hands of another actor, this this franchise does not do what it's doing.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, in the hands of another actor, and listen, we love Jerry Butler and he's a star at a level, but in the hands of another actor, these are Jerry Butler movies. These are
Yeah.
movies that are are ending up at 30-40 million dollars and
which
have
is
to do well overseas, which is great at that level. But Denzel is taking movies, and Antoine Fuqua, I mean, I think he's a movie star director, and obviously he's Denzel's guy, but he's a guy who directs bigger action movies than the
oh,
kind of
yeah.
movies that Gerard Butler would be in, or like we'll see an Expendables movie. But they elevate what otherwise is just guy walking around punching people movies, which you put someone else in a guy walking around punching people movies, it's going to make 20 million maybe.
Although we have mentioned that this is also a horror film because he is a slasher character, and so the brutality of these films are at a different level than your Jerry Butler most of your Jerry Butler movies. I mean, this
They
Equalizer character is basically if Jason was good.
they are for sure, and that's a great element when you watch these movies, but the marketing never leans into that.
They
They
no, no.
the Equalizer movies have never cut that trailer where you see Denzel peering from behind a window or
Mhm.
sneaking up from someone, and then there's a quick cut and there's a scream. They
Yeah.
don't really market to the gore hounds, even though these movies end up, when you do watch them, they are very much horror movies from a certain perspective,
Yeah.
which a lot of action movies in retrospect end up being, because it ends up being often many people who are probably very iffy on why they came into work that day or what their task really is, being offed by, whether it's Stallone, Bruce Willis, Dolph Lundgren, Denzel Washington, the
Keanu.
Keanu, like uh, action movies are often filled with people who would be horror movie victims from a different perspective.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's say, is there anything else in this top 5? I mean, Greek Wedding at 18 dropped 53%. I mean, I don't think this is gonna be a going concern. It probably will make, like, 25, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you
Really
figure
just
next.
kind of, just this seems to be an advertisement for its Hulu and/or Disney Plus release,
Yeah, and that's the
which
thing,
is fine.
when we talk about Haunting in Venice being a disaster, which is not, listen, it opened at 14 million. That's not a disaster. And my big fat Greek wedding is now at 18. The thing is, it is much better that all of these movies opened in movie theaters and sold
Mhm.
popcorn and sold some tickets for these theaters, rather than being made at the same cost and going straight to Streamo. My
Yep.
Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 has done more good for this world than Enchanted 2.
Oh, 100%. A movie that does not register as existing to most people.
No, Amy Adams came back to play, not for a cameo. Amy Adams didn't do a cameo in Enchanted 2. She comes back and plays the lead role every scene of that movie, and that movie is less valuable to humanity than A Haunting in Venice.
Yeah.
And it's not even close. It's not even
No.
close.
No, no, no.
It's
There
not even
shouldn't even
close.
be a conversation.
No, no. Hocus Pocus 2 did way less for the children of this world than Expendables 4 is going to do this weekend.
Mhm.
And we'll get to it. Expendables 4 maybe opens in single digits. Who knows? That movie still will have done more for the kids of this world than Hocus Pocus 2 did, dropping on Disney Plus last October. And that's
Now,
not even a competition.
before we get to this Expendables 4, I know you wanted to mention a movie that opened in very limited release that
Yeah.
I've been seeing ads in New York City for.
Mm-hmm.
And on TV, and when I say TV, the interstitial ads in between my YouTube essay videos that I watch.
Yep.
Dumb Money, which opened in 8 theaters and made only $220,000. And this was a per screen per theater average of $27.6 million. So this movie
$1,000.
did not.
27
I'm
if it
sorry.
averaged 27,000,000 a screen, it would be an
Sorry.
all-time blockbuster.
Yeah, 26,000. I'm sorry. I'm so used to seeing big numbers that these small
Right.
numbers look like dumb money to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we got it.
Yeah. So what's going on with this movie, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, this is a Sony Pictures movie. It's an Oscar hopeful, I think, in the sense of possible acting awards. They're thinking maybe we get America Ferrera, Paul Dano, though some of the actors in this cast, some supporting noms. And they had hopes for this movie. It was supposed to platform over a couple of weeks, go wide October 13th. I think now they've changed that schedule to get it further away from the opening of Taylor Swift The Eras Tour, the movie. But this was a movie that was going to make its bones with a huge per screen average on the coasts. And then you'd get word
Mhm.
of mouth. You'd get, oh my God, the BO Boys said this thing did $100,000 per screen in 8 theaters. Does it real happen in here? I'm just a plain Billy living in the stacks, but I got to go see this. You would have got that type of word of mouth in the next few weeks. And that's not going to happen when a movie does $27,000 per theater in 8 theaters. That's not the word of mouth you're going to get. And listen, I am going to fully chalk this up to being a casualty of the Screen Actors Guild strike. This was
Yeah.
a movie that needed heavy promotion from its star-studded cast. Leo's not in this movie. Sure, there's Joker's not in this movie, but it's one of those movies that has like 8 famous people in it. You
Mhm.
know, Seth Rogen, Paul Dano, Pete Davidson. Say what you want about Pete Davidson, but a lot of people listen to what he's got to say. America Ferrera. These are all very famous actors who would have promoted the hell out of this movie and let people know it exists. And I think because they can't even Instagram post it. They can't do
No.
anything.
It
And
struck work. You
yeah,
can't talk about struck work.
yeah. And you're obviously in bad standing with SAG, not because you're a scab, but because you haven't paid your dues in years and years and years.
I actually not years and years and years, pre-COVID.
Okay.
I just got a telephone call from them, actually. Just today, I
Okay.
got a yeah, I'm dodging calls from them now.
Wow. Oh,
Which
about that.
listen,
They didn't ask you to strike outside of the Drew Barrymore show. They
oh,
asked
no,
for
no,
your
no,
money.
no, no, they were like, "Listen, we need some funds."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, didn't answer the phone.
Wow. So that's God, that's not a good sign. That's pretty dire if these actors are like, we need money from Clayton to be able
Mhm.
to pay our rent. That's rough. So hopefully these studios pay up soon, because once the phone calls start going to Clayton for money, then you're in a bad way.
Yes, the water has run dry, my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, what do you think? Do you think that's a valid reason for why
Uh,
this movie
you
tanked in
know
its opening limited release?
Yeah, and I also think it's not just the promotion of saying it's coming out. I think this is a movie that needs explaining. Like, it's a
Mm,
movie that's concept needs explaining. They
yeah.
need to tell everybody who will listen what this movie's about, because
Yes.
it's not called GameStop Bros. It's not
Yes.
called, you know and even if it was, what were there apes? I don't know, there's something with apes there, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
there I don't know the lingo,
There's
but
no there's no title of this movie that's super self-explanatory to a general audience. If you called it The GameStop Bros, if you called it Ape Money or
yeah.
Going Ape, I think Going Ape might have just been a better title because people would have been confused and thought it was like a Congo type situation, but either way,
Yeah.
you're right. No one would know what this means.
And so I do think listen, and if it was directed by somebody they knew as well, like if you had, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name, the gentleman who did,
Martin
uh,
Scorsese,
Martin Scorsese, of course, but the gentleman who did
Christopher
the
Nolan,
no, no, no. Geez, I'm blanking because it's not the day we normally do this.
right? Quentin
Uh,
Tarantino.
no, no. The comedian turned director who did, used to do the movies with Will Ferrell and now does
Adam
serious movies
McKay.
that nobody likes. Adam
Adam
McKay.
McKay.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
absolutely. Adam
yes,
McKay. If
yes.
this was Adam McKay's Dumb Money,
Mhm.
then maybe you get by on that. But this concept needs to be explained. It's not a superhero movie. It's not based on a video game that people already know.
Right.
It's a story that just happened. And so, recently, and movies like this don't normally get made until like 5 years down the road. So
Right,
that's
right.
also a quick turnaround, which could confuse people. They're like, it can't possibly be about that.
Right, right,
It's got
right.
to be something as how slow Hollywood moves. It's got to be something 6 or 7 years ago.
Right, right.
So
Or honestly set in the 70s.
exactly. So I do think there's a level of explaining. They have explaining to do. Now that
Yeah,
I would do a I Love Lucy, I do Lucy, you've got explaining to do. If I could do that, I'm on strike, obviously, in bad
right,
standing. Actor in bad standing, on strike still.
right. So you can't
Still,
do a Desi Arnaz impression because you stand with your striking brothers and sisters at SAG.
yes, yeah, I stand firm with them.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, the
They could use
benefit of
your
doing.
back dues though. They could use that.
Yeah, a lot of people could use the money I owe them. A lot of
Very
people
true.
could. So if that's the
Very
argument, then get in line, folks.
right.
But what I'm saying here is that that's what's keeping this back more than anything. It's great for America to eat the hot wings. And we're going to do our video about, our episode about who eats the hot wings and who doesn't have to eat the hot wings. We're going to do that. We're getting the
Yeah.
names. People are sending the names.
Thank you for the names.
Thank you for the names. And, America in Barbie, biggest movie, one of the biggest movies ever, right? Still isn't at the level where she doesn't eat the hot wings. If this movie would have been huge and then she has another movie, maybe she doesn't have to eat hot wings. At this level, she's got to eat the hot wings and explain this movie while eating hot wings. And the
Yeah.
fact that she cannot do that means that there's many people who do not know what this movie is even about.
Well, the so much of the promotion in this movie probably would have been quirky, fun explainer videos. This was made for a wired YouTube channel. Hey, this is everything you need to know about the Ape Gamergate dumb money
Mhm.
scandal told to
I don't
you.
think Gamergate was connected to this. I don't think.
That's something else, but whatever. And GameStop. Yes,
Yeah,
Gamergate was
GameStop.
something else. Um, but you would have had Paul Dano and America Ferrer, or listen, you would have had Seth Rogen everywhere.
You
I think in
gotta.
the end, that's what Seth Rogen, Pete Davidson not being able to promote this movie is such a crushing blow for this movie. That is why you
Mhm.
create these 6 to 10 famous people in a cast type movies, because you just get all these people out there on their channels and on different shows promoting it. So I mean, we'll obviously track this as it expands. This was only 8 theaters. But
So
I
here's the
think the strike
dates.
thing is an issue.
So here's the dates for its expansion. This weekend, it's going to have a moderate expansion. We don't know exactly what that means at the moment. And then on the 29th, wide expansion. So this is platforming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see how this does against Saw X, Paw Patrol,
You're
The
right.
Creator.
Right.
I mean, there's some competition here
Exorcist
for this
Believer, and then of
expansion.
course Taylor Swift the Eras Tour, the movie. So it's
Well,
gonna
but
be
I
a
was
tough
I
couple
was
of weeks.
counting the weekend it actually gets released,
Got
which
it,
is the
got it, got it.
29th. Exorcist doesn't get released until the 6th.
Oh, so all of
So,
those movies are the 29th. Creator,
Dumb
Saw,
Money.
and Paw Patrol. Wow,
Yeah.
wow, 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 wow. Big weekend. All right. So that is, I think, the only stuff we have to talk to about what's already happened.
Mhm.
Everything else is pretty much doing what it had been doing the few weeks before. Um, I think nothing standing out. Bottoms sunk, not sunk, but bottoms now out of the top 10. It's sniffing 10 million. It's at 9.8
Yeah.
total. So the bottoms is sniffing that 10 million. So
That's looking like now a cult movie,
yes.
in the sense of the beginning of something. I do still think that collective, that group of creatives is going to do something big. It's just not this one.
No, no. I listen. I mean, the movie I'm gonna say, Bottoms, has made infinitely more money in its box office run than this comp I'm gonna say. So already it's a bigger success than that. But Bottoms could be in that Wet Hot American Summer
Okay.
type of situation where this is a
Oh, for
movie
sure.
that 10 years from now, comedy fans are saying, this was my movie. This is the
Mhm.
funniest thing to me. You know, you can't, I'm not going to let you into my dorm room tonight if you're not a fan of Bottoms. You know, that
Oh,
type of movie where, like, if you
women
don't think Bottoms is funny, then this hookup ends here.
oh, I was just gonna
That
say,
type of thing.
yeah, women saying, "I will not have relations with you
Yes.
if you have not seen and loved Bottoms."
Yes. 100%.
That
That
is a definite possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this movie has earned that, which, listen, that's worth 10, $20 million in box office run in the long term when you hit that level. And here's the thing, it's going to be that cult classic because it went to movie theaters first. As
Yes.
small of a box office run as Wet Hot American Summer had, and obviously that's a movie that caught fire on DVD and rental more than I would say
Mhm.
even cable, but the small amount of money that it made in theaters, the fact that it was actually in theaters was a reason why it was able to be taken seriously as a cult movie. So again, you got to put movies in theaters, even if it's just for it to become a cult classic. You can't sleep with me unless you've seen this movie type of movie.
Yes. Alright,
Should we look
is it
ahead? Should
time?
we look ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
Uh,
to.
Expendables 4. Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is a franchise that has been dead for close to 10 years, if you can
Yes.
believe it.
Yes. On the
Last
wane.
one,
Fully on the wane.
last movie was 2014.
Mhm.
So, let's do a little history of the Expendables, right?
Sure.
2010, first Expendables comes out, opening weekend, $34.8 million. Domestic total, 103.
Great. Fantastic.
2 years later, Expendables 2, opening weekend, 28.5. Total domestic, 85 million.
Love it.
Great. I mean, not as big as the first one, but still strong.
Yes.
Here's where
And
credits.
worldwide, made more than the first one did. I mean,
Yes.
overseas, that movie just exploded. It got to 311 worldwide. It's incredible.
Well, Sly has always been popular worldwide. When you look at his worldwide
Yes.
numbers, I mean, the guy is just Bafa Bobo over there. I mean,
Yeah.
and domestically too, but especially when you look at some of the movies that he did that did not do so well domestically, they still make Bafa Bobo overseas. They
Yeah.
love Sly over there.
Yeah. I would bet The Specialist and his big veiny butt did Bafa Bobo overseas.
Yeah. Expendables 3, 2014. Opening weekend, 15.8. Here's what's terrible. Domestic total, $39.3 million. Absolute cratering. Now,
Oofa doofa dee.
let's give a little history lesson for people who forget this. And I know, past and future guest Scott Mendelson, when I joked about this, he laughed and
Mhm.
scoffed at it a little bit. But there was a piracy issue with this third movie,
Okay.
which it got released early, leaked to the internet,
Mhm.
and the people behind this movie, and Sly Stallone especially, said that is why this movie did so bad, is because these hardcore fans, these rabid fans who made the first two big hits, could
Right.
not wait to go to the
Right.
theater. They had to watch it at home, and they watched it over and over again, and they were satiated by it. So they
Right.
didn't have to go to the theater. Now, of
Right.
course, that's a little bit hyperbolic. He didn't say satiated, I'm sure, but that was the spin, because it
Yes.
was spin, because
Yes.
this franchise had sort of really expended
Mhm.
its hipness and its power and the nostalgia factor over those first two movies. And yeah, we had Wesley Snipes fresh out of jail for the third one,
Mhm.
which I was very excited about. And I believe was that the one that had Mel Gibson as the villain?
I think Mel Gibson did Harrison Ford ever end up in one of these?
He
Was
was
he in the
in the
3rd one?
second one. I think he
In the
was in the
2nd
second
one.
one.
I mean, I do distinctly remember, the joy of these early movies, because I distinctly remember it must have been the second one, the 2012 Expendables 2, where after we saw it with several of our compatriots, we
Mhm.
were standing in the lobby for about an hour rattling off who
Yes.
could be in future movies. And then, of course, you get to the point where you're saying, Mr. T is going to be in these, and you're saying that, uh, 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 you're going to have, I don't know who you're going to have. Neil Armstrong will be in them, and you're going to have Spuds McKenzie will be in an Expendables movie. You start to get to that point of like who is the most absurd D movie actor, like a Spuds McKenzie, that could be an Expendable.
Yeah.
And that's not a good
Alf.
long. Alf, is Alf going to be in an Expendables movie? And that's not a good long-term vibe for a franchise when people are
No.
starting to say, when is Webster going to be in one of these movies?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think after the first two, that's all people thought about with these Expendables movies is what is the shock stunt casting that you could do.
Yeah.
And I think this was a franchise that after the first and the second one, there just isn't a real sheen to these movies.
No, and I do think yeah, so the third one was the Mel Gibson as the villain, and I do think that it had waned, and did the piracy cut into it at all? I don't know because, I feel like back then, it was like if you were gonna go see this movie, you were gonna go see this movie. I just think, like you said, it sort of lost its luster very quick because those movies came out in such a succession
Yeah, yeah.
that if they would have been 5 years apart, then it would have felt more special than churning it out every 2 years.
Yes, yes, yes. So one note, I think we shouldn't go too hard into this Expendables 4 because we're going to talk a lot about this movie when it comes out on this weekend with our huge special guest, which we'll announce at the end of this episode. We got a huge special guest in next episode. But something that we got a great email from wannabe oh boy Austin. And
Yes.
he gives us both sides of this movie. And on the sort of positive, he does say, was this Austin who says this? No, actually Austin seems to be very anti the possible success of this movie. Sly's just an
Mhm.
extended cameo. Statham is coming off the pretty subpar Meg 2. The film's big get is Megan Fox, an actress that Austin couldn't care less about. So yeah, when you look at this movie, and he does say that comps it to Plane, the Gerard Butler movie from last January, which only got to 30 million domestic, which is such a bad comp. And then Austin does bring up this is exactly the type of movie that the NFL is a huge problem for. And people are going
Mhm.
to watch the NFL. They're not going to go see Expendables 4. I mean, I think that's the big thing. This movie doesn't look like it has a big get. We both watched the trailer, and it's a lot of Megan Fox and it's a lot of 50 Cent.
Okay. Yeah,
And
let's get into this.
those seem
Now,
to be the stars of this film along with Statham, but honestly, 50 Cent has the most screen time in the trailer.
so 50 Cent has been in the Stallone orbit since Escape Plan, that series of movies. He was in Escape Plan, and then he was in the second one, I believe, when Stallone was just a sort of cameo. So they have a working relationship, it seems like. But when you're talking about the core audience for Expendables, and I would say we are the core audience, we are the sort of guys who grew up with the Schwarzeneggers, with the Stallones, with the Van Dams, with the Harrison Fords, the people who were in the first two.
Right.
And now when you replace it with 50 Cent,
Right.
a a musician who is at this point a footnote to me, and somebody whose acting career I have not followed, although I guess he produces or is in Powers, which was a big show.
Okay.
He's involved in something TV wise, and of course, we don't care about TV, okay?
Huh.
Huh? But to me, the heaviness of the presence of 50 Cent is a turnoff to me. He is somebody I actively avoid in entertainment choices
Okay.
because he is not a action guy. He is not the core sort of person I wanna see. Statham is, Stallone is, to an extent, like, I guess Megan Fox, she's pivoted to action, which is good for her, good for
But
her.
pivoted to D straight to video action movies. Like Megan,
Str
it's not like Megan Fox is
PVOD action, yes, she's
right.
she's the female Frank Grillo at this point.
Yeah, it's not like Megan Fox has had that one big action hit. She didn't have Salt, and maybe she's done a straight to PVOD Salt 3 film that we're not aware of. But like Megan Fox has pivoted to action in a way that hasn't registered. I mean, I think
Yes.
Megan Fox and 50 Cent just come off as the hypothetical joke additions that we all would have joked about being in these movies in 2014. When we're
Mhm.
saying the brawny towel guy is going to be in one of these movies.
That's a good one, that's a good one.
Like when we're thinking, oh, is Mr. Clean going to be in one of these?
Mhm.
Is the dad from Alf going to be in these? When you start, and
Is
then you would
Major
just
Dad gonna be in this one?
right, right. Is the big get going to be Gerald McCraney as the villain, or is it going to be 50 Cent, or is it going to be Megan Fox? They're all in that soup. So
Yeah.
I don't think that 50 Cent, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, or Megan
Mhm.
Fox are going to be taken seriously as big gets this weekend. So we'll see. I mean, I think that it's time for us to give our predictions on this top five. I mean, I here's the thing, and also this movie does not look very good. Austin said in his email, I've watched this trailer. This looks like a very junky version of one of these movies. There's not even a hooky premise in the way that at least Plane had the premise of what if a passenger jet crashed in a island run by militias or whatever. That had a
Mhm.
clear, okay, I know what's going to happen in this movie. Expendables does not have this. It's not like the trailer tells us the Expendables have to go fight a villain inside of a volcano.
Yeah.
There's no hook to this, and the movie does not look good. I'm gonna throw one thing at you, Clayton, before we do our top fives. One last thing.
Yep.
So
I know where you're going.
we were supposed to have Wannabe senior intern Christopher was going to guest on this episode. He was all set to guest, had a lot of great thoughts ready to go. He last minute was not able to because I mean, basically he and his roommates partied too hard and their internet went out. So he had no Wi-Fi in his room.
Whoa.
They partied way too hard. And when I say too hard, they partied the way they should because they're in college, so they should party this hard, but they partied so hard that his internet went down and he would not have been able to stream with us on this podcast, which is
Well,
totally fine.
are they celebrating the number 7, collegiate football team in the country, Penn State?
Oh,
The
wow.
fact that
Okay.
they are undefeated as of now and number
Oh,
7 in the entire country. We are Penn State.
wow. Well, thank you, Clayton, then for not partying so hard in your apartment that your internet went down.
Yeah.
So thank you for your service on that, not partying so hard. But
Well, thank Warner or Warner Cable for my service.
so Christopher could not make it, but he did give me this info. He's in a room with his roommates,
Yes,
and these are
cool.
all college guys. They're in the demo, and he asked them, Do you have any interest in Expendables 4? And all of them answered, what is that?
Oh,
Not
that's
no, not not no one even answered with just like a burp and then a laugh.
yeah.
They answered, what is that? What is that?
No, nobody said, I'm interested in your mom?
No
Or
one
do we
said
not
that.
know if they said that or not?
Uh, he just told me that they all said, what is that? Now, they may have
Okay.
followed that up with saying things that they were going to do to each other's moms, all
Yeah.
that, your mom's hot, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Just good, clean, just good, clean fun. But,
Now, did Christopher say it stars the titular Tulsa King from
well,
the Paramount Plus show Tulsa King? And
so
then they followed that with, "What is that?"
what is that? I mean, they probably have a more of a chance of knowing what Tulsa King is than the Expendables movies because at least when they have to go home over the summer or, holidays, their dads might be watching a new episode of Tulsa King on Paramount Plus,
Yes.
but they're probably not watching these Expendables movies from the early 2010s. So he did follow up. I asked him to follow up with one more question to
Okay.
ask them when he says Sly Stallone, what comes to mind first? And they all said Rocky. So there is
Yeah.
full awareness of Sly Stallone as Rocky. Sly Stallone is still in the culture for, 18 to 22-year-old dudes who party so hard their internet goes out.
Now, do you think, and we'll get to our, of course, we gotta get to this, but do
Yeah,
you
we got to get
think
to it.
that if Sly had been in Creed 3,
Mm,
which was a big hit and fairly recent, it would have reminded people, young people who saw that movie, "Oh, this guy." And
mhm.
then, you have Expendables 4 come out. Or if Stallone would have broken up a fake high school fight and shown people the error of their ways about fighting and been in a viral fabricated clip like Jonathan Majors was, would
Mhm.
that have helped this movie?
I don't know if the viral fake breaking up a fight video would have helped Sly Stallone, but I do think if he had been in Creed 3 this past spring, that adds some money to the opening weekend of Expendables 4. Because one thing to note is all of the Creed movies came out after Expendables 3. That is how long ago these three Expendables movies came out. Expendables 3 came out in 2014. Creed 1 came out in 2015. So Sly has had a resurgence since the Expendables movies, but he was not in the Creed that just came out this year. So I don't think he gets a big bump from the Creed movies.
Yeah,
Him being in Creed 3 probably would have helped. I mean, in
but stay
retrospect,
yeah.
he should have done his cameo in Creed 3 and just got himself out there.
Yeah, yeah, and well, the thing too is, he was in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 very briefly. I don't think for enough time that it really registered all that
Yeah.
much.
I mean, it's sort of like you can't open a movie with Sean Gunn because he was in Guardians 3. I think those movies that once you get past the first couple of people, being in a Guardians movie doesn't really help you that much.
Yeah. Alright, well, we'll see. We'll talk about the factors that maybe affected the opening of this movie when we get to it next episode.
Yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. So let's give our predictions for this coming weekend, for the weekend that will be Friday, September 22nd. So
Okay.
would you like to go first, Clayton? As
I
the currently the healthier of the two of us, I'm still slightly sickly.
Wow, that's shocking. That's shocking when I'm the healthier of the 2.
Okay, I do take that back because even though I have been sick, I think in totality, yes, you're right. I have to be healthier than you are. You
So do
know,
you wanna go first?
I'll go first then. Yes, because
Okay.
I am currently slated to live longer. So let me go
Yeah.
first. So number 1 at the box office, I'm
It's not a slam doink.
in fact, I'm not going to doink this at all. I think
Ooh.
Nun 2 might hold on to this.
I mean, yeah, that would not shock me.
I'm gonna go Nun 2 somehow making 10 million because I think number 2 is gonna be Expendables 4 making $9 million. I think this movie is
Wow.
going to completely tank for a lot of reasons. We'll go over when it does tank. We'll talk about that with our big special guest on the next episode. I'm going Nun 2, number 1. Expendables 4 opens in single digits, number 2. Then I think that number 3 is gonna be Equalizer 3.
Mhm.
Number 4 is going to be A Haunting in Venice. I think that's gonna fall off the face of the earth and drop 60 or 70% to, like, 5 or 6 million, so that's number 4. And then number 5 is gonna be Barbie, and God, depending on how many IMAX screens Barbie gets, Barbie could get to number 3. I have
I
Barbie at
was
number
gonna
5
say,
right now, but goddamn, Barbie could end up getting itself as high as 3. Is there a chance that Barbie gets on enough IMAX screens where this movie gets a number 1? Probably not.
yeah.
Definitely not. But actually, it has a chance to finish ahead of Equalizer 3. I think it's definitely gonna make more than My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. So I'm gonna keep it at 5. That's where I'm going, number 5.
Yeah, okay, so we don't know the number of IMAX screens right now,
Yeah.
but, supposedly there is a added ending or added stinger or something to this, so there is a little bit to bring people out. Plus, you haven't gotten a chance really to see Barbie on IMAX. This is a movie that
No.
is available to buy and rent at home, and it's still doing business in the theater. Now, obviously, we know PVOD does not really cut into a hit movie's theatrical run.
Right.
And, they're charging 30 bucks, I think, to buy it, which is great. I love
Great.
that. It should be a
Premium.
premium. It should be $50,
Yes, yes. It should be
right?
$100. They should
It should be
right
on
now,
yes.
Barbie should be the cost of, like, a Floyd Mayweather fight to watch
I
it on pay-per-view.
absolutely agree to that. If you want great entertainment, you have to pay a premium, I believe.
Yeah.
So, number 1, I am gonna just say Expendables 4 because, this could be one of the lowest openings we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Because I also think this is gonna make 9 or 10. I'm gonna
Mhm.
go hopefully that it makes 10. This is
Okay.
my hope, and you've gotta live in hope.
Yep.
Number 1, Expendables 4 with $10,000,000. I do think The Nun 2 drops to, like, 8.
Okay.
So it's gonna
Okay.
be underneath that, so number 2 is gonna be Nun 2.
Okay.
Then I think, Haunting in Venice. And then
Okay.
I'm gonna
Ahead of
go
you.
Barbie. I am gonna go Barbie in IMAX as number 4,
Okay.
and then Equalizer 3.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I mean, there is definitely I had Equalizer at number 3, but the first weekend of Expendables 4 could definitely cannibalize that audience. So
I
there is
think
a
so,
chance Equalizer
yeah.
3 takes a pretty big hit this weekend. Or no one goes to see Expendables 4 and Equalizer 3 just keeps doing what it do. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
So Clayton, we will see on our next episode. And listen, card subject to change because this is a busy man who's got
Mhm.
a lot on his plate right now. But scheduled to be on our next episode of the BO Boys is the star of the Kirk Minahan show. Kirk Minahan himself is coming back to talk Sly, to talk Expendables 4 opening weekend.
Yeah.
And he's going to be promoting a pay per view event because the
That's
Kirk
right.
Minahan show is going to pay-per-view. He's got a big live show in Saco, Maine, and it's going to be broadcast around the world. This is not a Peacock event, like a we love WrestleMania, but WrestleMania is not a pay-per-view anymore. Kirk Minahan show
No.
is on pay-per-view. So he'll be on to promote that, but we'll start the promotion here. I think you could probably go right now, call your local cable company, call your local cable provider, go to Barstool, and you could order the pay-per-view. And if your cable company does not carry the Kirk Minahan pay-per-view show, you write them a letter immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Or cut the
So,
cord. Or cut the cord.
or cut the cord, but definitely
Yeah.
cut it. So
Oh, you
right
gotta cut
now
the
he
shit.
is scheduled to be on the next episode of the BO Boys. Of course, card subjects change, but until then, email us. We love getting emails. We love getting boots on the ground reporting. I'm gonna read right now a boots on the ground report from wannabe oh boy Matt. Subject line none to on the ground report. He says, wannabe oh boy Matt here writing to say that in a screening for none two, the audience is 99% Hispanic. BO Boys are right. Hispanic people are doing everything they can to keep these theaters in business. So
Mm-hmm.
there you go. Boots on the ground reporting, none two getting a diverse audience, at least in the theater that wannabe oh boy Matt saw none two. And so email us, the BO Boys podcast at gmail.com. We love getting your emails. Follow us on social media at the BO Boys pod. Wannabe senior intern Christopher killing it with the vertical clips on Twitter X and on TikTok. So follow at the BO Boys Pod on those platforms. Of course, we are YouTubers. The show is simulcast both on podcast platforms and on YouTube. So if you haven't already, you got to subscribe to the BO Boys YouTube channel. It's only going to get bigger and better there. Maybe we'll do pay-per-view at some point. We're not
Why
at that
not?
level, but who knows? But the YouTube channel is where that kind of stuff starts. So subscribe to the BO Boys on YouTube and subscribe, and ring that what, Clayton?
Bell.
Ring that bell. And of course, 5 stars on podcast platforms, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You've been doing great. Wannabe oh boys, wannabe oh girls, wannabe oh people
People.
on giving us those 5-star reviews. Those help new people find the show every day. So give us 5 stars, say love the show, blah, blah, blah.
Great
Helps
show, blah,
out
blah,
a lot.
blah. Yep.
Yep. Helps out a lot. So yeah, I mean, right now, next episode, Expendables 4 results with Kirk Minahan, and a lot to look forward to. So I think that's it, Clayton. I think we've done it.
I don't think there's anything left to say, Pat.
No.
Except for
Huh?
until next time.
Will
Will
smell
smell
you
you at
at the
the
box
box
office.
office.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.